Hi, I'm Dennis Rowe. I fly a just aircraft Highlander, and I'm in a sport class.
You said you built 4 airplanes. What were they?
Yeah, I started off as a kid, and actually I started building at 14 years old. Dad bought a Pterodactyl Ascender ultralight. It's a very early 1981 vintage tube and fabric ultralight, and started building that. And unfortunately, he passed away when we were half done building it. And my mother, to her credit, she was a 36-year-old widow. She's an angel. She let her 15-year-old son finish this airplane, and with some adult supervision from professionals. I learned to fly it out of the Pterodactyl flight manual, which is just basically tells you taxi the airplane at 1,200 RPMs until you get comfortable, and then start doing S-turns with the control inputs, the aerodynamic control inputs, and just add 50 RPMs when you get comfortable at 1 RPM is a digital tack, obviously, on it. When you finally work up to the speed where it'll leave the ground, it would say level out, reduce the throttle, and land. What if your wheel's just a foot or two off the ground? Several people hurt themselves or killed themselves doing this, but I was a pretty careful kid, and it actually worked out. And I got to the funny thing is, I didn't want to turn. I continued to develop until I was doing 150-foot high pro hops down the length of the runway in Glade Mills, Pennsylvania. I'd go up and we'd shut the motor off. That was another thing. As soon as wheels would leave the ground the first time, they told you to shut the motor off, so it wouldn't zoom, climb, you wouldn't do anything stupid. You had low RPMs. If you listened to the manual and didn't get carried away, you couldn't get in trouble. But so many people couldn't follow directions, but luckily I did. I wore out the wheel bearings because I kept doing crow hops. Crow hops, 2 or 3 the length of the runway, turn around, do them, calm evenings. You could do them both directions. And they're like, just go, you're 150 feet in the air and you're shutting it off and landing. Go. I was nervous to make a left turn. So I'll never forget it. The first day I sent it, I just kept climbing. I'm climbing. My eyes were probably bugging out. I'll never forget the feel of that pterodactyl. But I went out over Glade Mill Lake and made a left turn and did a downwind turn and come around, shut it off and landed. And they were like, what are you doing back here? And I'm like, well, I've made some right. Well, go do some right turns. Go fly. And I was so scared as a kid. You're 15. I was like, am I going to get lost up there? Flew it home one day and landed it and just flew it for a few years and took a break. After I graduated high school, I had enough money in my pocket to race dirt bikes, and I needed an athletic outlet because my dad was pretty strict. He never let us play sports. So when I finally could afford a dirt bike and that, I went motocross racing for 7 years and just loved. I will be a lifelong motocross fan. That got a little too dangerous to pay, worried about paying a mortgage and raising the kids. I got back into something safe like flying. Built a Lowley, a sport parasol. Mike Lowley's sport parasol was a high wing wooden plane in the early 90s. And then I built a Cold Mark III and finished that baby in 2003. I actually finished that. It was a Century home built. The first flight of the Wright brothers was 1903. I finished that one in 2003. And so it was a beautiful airplane. And actually it's still flying in the Pacific Northwest. I sold it. And then Highlander was number 4. And it was so funny because I had the Cold for 18 years and still beautiful airplane. In that time, my kids were raised. And when Highlander came along, I was fully in love with the Bush pilot thing. I wanted the Yamaha engine. I wanted the performance. And we built that thing as everything I dreamed it would be and more. And 2 flights in it. The second test flight, I landed and she goes, what do you think? I said, I think the Colb's for sale. And I love Colb's, but the Highlander's just... It does it all. It does it all. And yeah, here I am.
You obviously love flying this. To see it go over on its nose and to hurt your baby, cuts you deep.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, that's actually, this is my second little accident. And that, I had it one early on, 50 hours in a ground loop. And they're humbling experiences, and you look back on them and you what do you say? You done it, and you own it and you learn from it and you thank God. And in this case, it was not too serious. I had the cowling off, so no cowling damage. Spinner and spinner plate gone and 1 blade. And I donated the other blade to Hal Stockman, so hopefully somebody can use it someday and it's still usable. Only 1 blade took the hit in that, but Hal lent me a blade to get me home, and hopefully we get her home safe and get the blade shipped back to him in Oshkosh before he goes home because they're traveling blades. But what a great community to be here, and Steve Croak here at the airport just has helped me out so much this week, and And Hell and Jason Bissott had blades to offer me, and any tool you need. These guys are just, they're, the finest people in the world.
That not only people are willing to give, but they also have the parts.
I can remember going to this Honda factory rig to get a piston from my buddy Mark Kane to get him back in the race. Yeah, same kind of thing there, but even more so here. And it's funny because I have a spare prop at home, but it don't do me good 700 miles away. And there's Hell lending me the prop he needs to fly his airplane home efficiently, and to take his competition blade off. So that's something. I don't want to make excuses because I obviously too much brake, but I had throttle on in the elevator back, and then I left off. Once I felt it once it went past the point and there's no time to get the motor off. They said there was the wind had switched to a tailwind gust there and got under the tail maybe. I'll take that. I mean, I still did it. I'm not saying that caused it. I should never had the tail up that high. You're trying to stop fast, you need to land with your tail on the ground, and I did will land that. So yeah, but you just hate yourself for it's pilot error, and it shows unpolished. There's always room to learn, but you hate those expensive lessons. But
fair enough, but not at the expense of your health, which is the best.
Yeah, it was absolutely no impact in the cockpit. You're sitting there, you're basically balancing on a beach ball, going oh, shit. And there's nothing you can do because now you're over to any power you add is going to pull it down, and it's full idle now, and you're wishing there was some giant that could reach out and 2 pounds on the tail would have saved it. The plane, you could get it deeper into a higher angle of attack for a slow approach with some weight. I've actually talked to Steve about it. He used to, when he flew a plane configured like mine is now, early on with the lower horsepower Yamaha engine like mine, he ran 5 or 8 pounds, I forget the number he said, on his tail. He clamped it on the back for competition and then put it up in the front for traveling. So, and I thought about doing that, and I looked at my T3 tail suspension. I didn't see an elegant way to get some weight back there and make it easy to take on and off quick, and I ran out of time for the trip. But yeah.
So talk about that. And weight in general is very important for an airplane. Obviously, it's going to decrease your numbers. So
a lot of guys will take the spare seat out. If you're flying in the left seat, take their passenger seat out, their right seat out. They'll take out like baggage. The Highlander has a large baggage capacity and stuff, and I've seen guys, and probably Steve's doesn't have like the bulkheads in it, the aluminum panels and stuff to divide, for carrying cargo and that. And mine, I'm a run what I brung guy. I don't have the rig to haul it and stuff. And I want to fly. I haven't burned out on flying cross country yet, and it's part of the adventure. But I tell you, it's a little scary when you're 800 and Nebraska, 1,000 miles from home, in a little airplane in the Midwest with weather that can blow up. It's like you feel like you're out there with your pants around your ankles half the time. What if this hits the fan here? And a hailstorm come through Rice Lake the other night, and I'm lucky I had it indoors, and that just destroyed a lot of things up there. And you have an airplane outside, you're out tens of thousands of dollars. There are risks to it. But going back to the weight, yeah, when you're competing and you're on the brakes hard, trying to stop short, and also approaching at a high angle of attack, high beta or whatever they call it, with the power in behind the power curve, and you're trying to get that plane hanging on the prop to slow it down. So when you get to that line, you just chop the power, maybe the flaps or whatever, and you just have the forward motion reduced from the upward vector. That you need weight on that tail. You need weight on that tail, or a stronger elevator. You may have a little shy on elevator authority to hold that tail down there. So yeah, the guys that are doing it have got their planes tuned to where they got every lift aid. I have VGs, and I have a leading edge cuff, and that's about it for performance mods, lift wise, aerodynamics wise, VGs.
Yeah, the weight distribution.
Yeah, the weight, that's where I'm lacking, because either more elevator authority or more weight in the tail. And you don't want that all the time. You just want it when you're really trying to push the edge, and I could have used it today.